Welcome back to the Retro Sports Gamer channel, and we are back here tonight to talk about some breaking news for once as it relates to retro sports games.
This crazy one relating to retro sports game and from a legitimate source, Nintendo.
Yes, and we are also going to talk about the Polymega and the updates with the console since the pre-order. This is something we were excited about last year, or I was excited about. We did a couple videos talking about it, and then coming up with some dream scenarios of what we thought could have been included with the console. So we are going to talk about that after we break the breaking news, and that's Tecmo Bowl.
Yeah.
Online multiplayer on the Nintendo Switch.
And not only Tecmo Bowl, but there's also 5 other sports games that are going to have online multiplayer.
Yes, and they're adding a few too. So let's look at that graphic right now. We'll do the screen share. And the chat's open. We got Rogue Gamer in the chat saying, "Where's LJC? He's sitting right here next to me."
I think that's just a new thing. We got it reversed on screen share.
All right, here we go.
So with the Switch online service, they're launching this NES thing that basically they're adding multiplayer to games that are online multiplayer to games that are even single player, so that you can play with people. And with that, the games that are already multiplayer, you're obviously going to be able to play online against each other. And there's plenty of sports games in here. There's 6 off the bat. So you got soccer, ice hockey, tennis, Tecmo Bowl, baseball, and tag team wrestling or pro wrestling. Pro wrestling is probably the worst of those, but you know it's there, and that's crazy. 6 sports games, and to mention those 5 sports games that aren't Tecmo Bowl were not on the NES Classic. So there's a bunch of games that you're not getting from the NES Classic that are on here.
Yeah, and originally they only said for the longest time 10 games, and none of them were sports. So I'm wondering, what are they waiting to release here? I know Tecmo Bowl's a huge possibility because it was on the Nintendo Wii, it was on the NES Classic, so obviously they still have a relationship with Tecmo to bring that on board. And then they do it, the original Tecmo Bowl. I mean, I could still be a dreamer and say that Tecmo Super Bowl could be on this eventually without the player names and logos because they have a relationship with Tecmo, and this isn't the only Tecmo game they're releasing through this online multiplayer network.
The other thing that's great about it, you see these 20 games right here, and that's what's launching on the 18th. For the next 3 months, they actually have games launching, and 2 more are going to be added. If you scroll down, that are sports games, you're going to get NES Open and Super Dodgeball for the same thing.
And even the Mighty Bomb Jack.
Yeah, but those are all Tecmo games. You got Solomon's Key, Mighty Bomb Jack, and they're adding Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah, Ninja Gaiden's another one right here. So there's 3 Tecmo games. They're releasing a Tecmo game each month. That's a good sign for things to come.
So what I imagine happening here is if people are playing Tecmo Bowl online enough with the original, why not go Super Bowl? They already know that the major part of the community is in Tecmo Super Bowl, but I think this is a testing ground. And it seems like they have a really good partnership going with them right now, so why not?
Yeah, and, you know, I'm really excited about Tecmo Bowl, obviously, but the second game that a lot of people like is ice hockey. Ice hockey is one of those classic games that and Blades of Steel are looked at as the best hockey games on the Nintendo. They're even considered, you know, one of the top 5 for retro hockey games. So that one's another fun one that people love to play back and forth.
Those are definitely the standout sports titles that are showing up here. Like baseball's all right. Tennis is pretty good for a tennis game. I haven't played soccer, so I can't say anything.
Yeah, I can't say too much about soccer. That's one of the sports that some of the games passed me by. But baseball is pretty solid. I mean, most baseball games on the NES are are at least playable and fun baseball games. So that one should be good as well. And then, if you just look at some of the other titles, I know we focused on the sports ones, but Super Mario 3 is going to be fun playing back and forth. River City Ransom
is the most notable one on this list because that one was not on the NES Classic. And that's one that people are like, why did you not put that on the NES Classic?
But wasn't it in the Japanese, the Famicom?
It was on that one.
Yeah.
It was not on ours, though.
Yeah, so maybe they were holding it out for this.
I could see it happening.
And then, you get your classic Super Mario Brothers, Double Dragon's another one.
The interesting thing about Double Dragon is the second one is the two-player one on NES. So I don't know what they're doing for this Double Dragon.
Yeah.
That was the one that was featured on the NES Classic. So I have no idea. Maybe are they adding in simultaneous play for that?
Well, the thing that they said you could do is you could take turns playing one-player games with someone.
No, I get that, but
I don't know. We'll see.
That, I mean, that's just speculation, but that's an interesting question.
And Rogue Gamers in the chat says soccer was always fun. So we'll have to check that one out. I think I have that game.
I have the Famicom version.
How's it going, Troy? All right, looking down here, another big-time thing they're releasing, the Nintendo Entertainment controllers as Joy-Cons. What do you think of this?
So this is awesome. I mean, you get a wireless NES controller, and it just charges straight off of the system. So the one thing that's really notable about this, though, so it's $60. The only way you can buy this is if you have the membership for the online service, and you can only buy it through them. So it's not something we're going to see at the retail store. So I'm slightly concerned about quantity of the product being out there. So this is going to release in December.
Yeah, but you could still obviously play these games with the existing Joy-Cons or the controller options that are out there now. But now you have a Nintendo controller to go along with these online player Nintendo games, so you could easily connect with people. You could play on HDTV. You could play it mobile. And, people that are into the older games like myself, like you, we can play these games now.
The other thing
with ease, because that's the thing. You could do it through emulators right now. You could go on a computer. You could connect through IP address, but this is just like a straight line connection. And Troy in the chat says this would make me consider getting a Switch. And yeah, with some of these releases, I am getting a Switch. Matt already has one. So
I have it with me right now.
How do you feel about these? This online service as far as the retro games offered, and does it get you excited for what you already have?
Honestly, so I already have a PS4 and I have the online service with the PS4, and they give you like 3 games a month, and they're full, retail games that are modern. I have touched probably 2 of those, and I have 60 games from them. And this is offering NES games, which I am way more likely to play. Like, this is just so much better. And the other part that's great about it is this costs $20 a year versus $60 a year for the other services.
Yeah, and you don't get you can't stream straight from the Nintendo Switch like you can on a PS4 or Xbox. So that's one of the things. It doesn't have the built-in voice chat. You still have to do it through the app on the smartphone, which is cumbersome. But then you could also just use Discord anyways.
So that's what I've been currently doing whenever I play Switch games. I just do it on Discord. But the one benefit that I realized recently to having the app instead of it being directly on the console is the Switch is more, the Nintendo products usually kids will get their hands on. But not every kid has a smartphone. So with the kid needing a smartphone to do voice chat, they're not going to be on voice chat. So you're less likely to encounter kids that are annoying.
Yeah, Nintendo's worried about that type of stuff. I still think they should have built-in voice chat. You could do that with Fortnite currently and no other game, as far as I'm aware.
So, but honestly, at the point that I am with the community of people that I play video games with, we are on different platforms all the time, but we still want to talk and hang out. So we use Discord anyway. I think the built-in is not as necessary, but it also is an ease of access thing, like you were saying with playing games.
And we got a couple comments in the chat. Mike Garcia says SNES version would be better. That is something that could be coming down the pipeline. You know?
I mean, if this gets supported well, why would they not do a Super Nintendo version of this and release Super Nintendo controllers on top of that?
And then Troy says, are they going to make this playable online against other players? Yes, that's the point. All of these games that we're showing you, they're online multiplayer, all these Nintendo games. The service is only $20 a month. So if
not a month, a year.
I mean, a year, $20 a year. Yeah, thanks for correcting me on that. I said it correct in the chat. $20 a year, you get the whole thing, even if you want to play the current games online, and then you could play these. So that's the big selling point. Tecmo Bowl, it's not the game that we cover all the time with all the tournaments, but there is one huge tournament a year as far as retro sports gaming in Omaha, and Brad Bell, the best Tecmo Bowl player in the world, throws that tournament. So now we have an easy way to play Tecmo Bowl and get better at the game. We could go to a tournament like that, and this could make that game even bigger or show, have more interest in it. And Peter says, I was waiting for this to come. It was only a matter of time. Yes. So, yeah, we are obviously excited about it. Well, Troy said this could revolutionize the Tecmo community if they'd only get the right game on there. Yes, and I'm a dreamer too. I want Tecmo Super Bowl on there. I can't see why they can't do it. They have a Tecmo game every month. This could be something huge that they bust out at some point. All they have to really do is remove the player names and logos. We'll still know who each guy is. So it doesn't really matter. They just need to update the pixels, really.
It's just slightly more work than they wanted to do in the past. And that's why Tecmo Super Bowl has never made it to Virtual Console, because they don't want to go through the hassle. Because all they did with Tecmo Bowl is they removed the player names, because the teams, don't have the actual logos. It's just the player association.
Yeah, but come on, it's really not that much work compared to all these modern games.
Oh, no. I could probably do it in like a day if you put me on that project.
Exactly. So, but this is still huge. I mean, I would love to play all these games versus my friend Mike, who also has a console. I talked to Brad about this. I'm like, hey, Tecmo Bowl's online multiplayer now. This will be released September 18th. So he said he'll play some games with me. I'm getting a Nintendo Switch now because of this solely. I was waiting for the big thing that would make me want to jump into the Nintendo Switch, was something that I couldn't do before easily. And this is what I see as it.
Yeah. I mean, if I didn't already have a Switch, this would sell me on it. I mean, I bought an NES Classic, no problem, and this has got a bunch of stuff that I would want to play.
And just next month, you're going to get 2 more sports games, NES Open and Super Dodgeball. So, NES Open, because it's a golf game, it's underrated, but it's a really good golf game on the console.
I mean, NES Golf, your originals basically set the standard for the entire, any golf game after that. They're all based off of the same thing. So NES Open is just like an improved version of that.
And Super Dodgeball. November, not too many sports games there, but I guess Tecmo Mighty Bomb Jack, the Tecmo Super Bowl, you always see the Mighty Bomb Jack show. It's a big deal.
It's the Super Bowl halftime show coming right there. We already have part of Tecmo Super Bowl right there.
And I haven't really played that game, so that will be a first experience for me, because I'll definitely play it. But yeah, that's pretty much it for what we wanted to cover on the Nintendo Switch online service. There's obviously other things that they released today in their Nintendo Direct.
Did you watch the Direct? Because I watched it live.
I did not.
A couple of people, and we were talking about it while it was
I did not watch it live. I saw there was some people doing live reactions.
People love doing that kind of thing.
I know. And Pete's saying, you got to get a Switch, man. It's a necessity.
I think that the Switch is the best console. And I think it's really good for people in your age range that have a family, because it's something that you can just pull up and play, console games at any time while you're sitting in the same room as everybody else.
Yeah, but this was a big deal because these games are quick pick up and play type games. You can play for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and then be done if you got to go react to something. Whereas, the games now are just more involved, most of them. I know there's a lot of indie games that are retro inspired, but, this is a big selling point for me. That's all I'm saying. So Nintendo Switch, finally, I feel like jumping on board. I'm still not happy about the voice chat thing through the phone. I'd rather not have that. I'd rather have it directly through the console. But there's ways around it. You can use this voice chat app, or you can just use Discord.
And I really think we should probably do a Discord for this specifically, to be honest.
And Mike Garcia says, too expensive as a portable for kids.
I would completely agree, but if you've paid attention to what Nintendo is doing, they keep releasing games on the 3DS, and I think they are aware where their audience is. So they've been putting out a bunch of GameCube, or they're trying to port GameCube games over to the 3DS. It's cheap to make for them, and I think it's specifically targeting because parents are buying their kids 3DSs still, because it is the cheaper option. You can actually put it in your pocket. This you can only put in your pocket if you take off the controllers and then you stick the giant screen in your back pocket. Otherwise, it's not realistic to carry around with you.
Yeah, it's not a portable pocket. You got it right here. Yeah, it's just not. It's not portable.
I will not take this anywhere without it being in here because I do not want to scratch the screen.
Yeah, most people now they have messenger bags like you have, or backpacks. So in a nice case like that, it's easy to carry around. It's no big deal. So is there anything else that you want to talk about in Nintendo Switch releasing their online service?
I mean, day one, I'm going to adopt it. They are offering a free trial that comes with it. It's only 7 days, but you can sign up for that if you want to try it. But I don't see why you don't just pay $20 and then the whole year is covered for you. There's so many different services that I pay for that cost me $10 a month. Why not give them $20 just
for a year?
Yeah, and have all these games. And then they'll keep adding at least 3 a month, I would think.
Well, this is the first time Nintendo is charging for online service, and it's a good thing that they released it with something that they've never done before.
Yeah.
Which was they have done some retro games online on the Wii. I think there was a Street Fighter game that did that. But This is like a collection, and they're adding them. So it's like, okay, there's something to this service. It's not just saying, oh, well, we're charging now because that's how we're doing it now.
If you consider the cost that it was on Virtual Console for each one of these games individually, you're saving so much more money because it was $5 a game before.
Yeah,
and they're expanding the service on top of that.
It's probably why they've been so hard on the emulation community.
Oh yeah,
as of recently.
That's definitely what they're trying to do.
So this is going to be a big deal. And now, if you're into these retro games, especially the sports ones, they're releasing a bunch of sports games. This might be the time to jump in. All right, now we're going to talk about the Polymega, because last year, and I didn't expect it to go on this long, but it's been almost 1.5 years since we were getting excited about a Polymega release. And we thought it was going to happen that fall or early in the year, but it's taken a while.
If you've watched any of these grassroots hardware or software type things through Kickstarter and whatnot, I know this isn't a Kickstarter, but this takes time. And there's a lot of dreams that are not met with these products. And this one, I think, is still kind of fulfilling what it was originally going to be. but also I think it doesn't hit the mark exactly.
So let's take a look at the Polymega. The Polymega, it released its pre-order, as they're calling it, on Tuesday, September 4th, but they had issues with the website. It wasn't up for like at least 2 days. By the third day, I think they finally figured it out because they were getting a lot of traffic, is what they said. So, you know, their old website and the forum, they completely removed it, and then they went live with their new website for the pre-order. So the Polymega, it's something that has changed a little bit from what we thought it was, you know, in May of 2017. There has been some changes that are positive and some that aren't so positive, and we'll talk about those. So let's scroll down here. If you don't know what the Polymega is, its core console plays CD-based games, and it's a $249.99 price point. It has Sega CD. I think it says it down here. Yeah, so they're saying that it plays a bunch of compatible systems, but they're really just organizing it by their region. But PlayStation, Saturn, TurboGrafx CD, Neo Geo CD, and the big one that they released with the pre-order campaign video is the Sega Saturn.
Yeah.
So that one we didn't find out until that day because the video played fine, but the Sega Saturn was one that people really wanted, and then they brought it to fruition as part of this campaign for the pre-order. And the chat's going crazy. We're trying to keep up. But yeah, so Sega Saturn, that's pretty big. Now, one of the things that you're probably not aware of, but I've been watching a lot of videos on the Polymega since they launched the pre-order, is that the Sega Saturn footage they showed a few games, but the first game that they showed, and I don't remember exactly what the game is, but it was arcade footage.
They showed arcade footage,
like yeah, and then they showed Panzer
General.
No,
Panzer Dragoon.
Yeah, as the next one. So people called them out on that, so they had to do some cleanup with that, and there was a lot of people giving them a hard time. So, you know, they released on their Facebook just hours ago of footage of it playing the Sega Saturn. Now, it's not one of the guys putting a CD into the system and showing that it's playing. You're just seeing the interface of it, the Sega Saturn.
Jumping into it.
So that it looks good, but you know, people still are going to be skeptical then if you're not just the guy putting in a Sega Saturn game into a working device and showing it off.
Of course.
But you know, these guys were at E3. They were, when we showcased this system back in May, there was actual footage of their prototype being functional. So it's not like these guys have nothing working. They definitely do. For some reason though, in their trailer and some of their videos, they don't show it. They don't present it like that. And I think the skeptical community that the gaming, especially the retro gaming community is, they probably should show more of that, just like a hands-on guy showing, hey, look, this is a working system and this is how it works. And Nan saying, good stuff, guys. Great explanation of why we don't get Super Bowl still. I hope we get it at some point, but this is a positive. Yes, moving in the right direction. I'm still willing to play some of these other retro sports NES games on the Switch. So Polymega, it's about the games. It's been some fun. And there you go. You're seeing the Sega Saturn now, Sonic Jam. Really the only... You know, they never came out with a 3D version of Sonic on Sega Saturn.
It's really not even it's just a collection that has a museum that's in 3D.
And Mike Garcia is saying, well, Polymega's new 25-minute Saturn video is also fake. Check out the save state gameplay re-entry. It's not normal. And honestly, Mike, I only looked at it for about 30 seconds and saw that it was just the interface. 25 minutes, I wasn't going to go through the whole thing. But like I said, you know, that's not what people ultimately needed to see. They want to see Sega Saturn game go into your working prototype and you showing it off. That's really what they needed to see.
So the thing is about that, though, like, they probably are going to hit the target point on that. Like, I don't think that they're incapable of doing that. But they wanted to get this out by the pre-order. So the footage that you're going to see about it, it's going to look skeptical. But I think they'll hit the point by the time the system comes out.
And we're going to look at that in a second because that's on the rewards. So now the thing is, there's a lot of people saying that this is not just a pre-order, even though it's been reported that they have funding for this, that they have to hit a $500,000 tier to make this come out. So a lot of people are saying they're still crowdfunding it, but just through their own website instead of Kickstarter, Indiegogo, something like that.
And I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that, because you can see even different things that came out on Kickstarter. When they've hit their funding goal, they've also gotten picked up by publishers after that. That happened with Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night, where it was originally a crowdfunding thing. They broke like their goal by a ton, and then a publisher picked them up on top of that. So they know that there's just demand out there.
Yeah, and there is demand for this. Now, as we look at the modules here of the different systems, this is where there was a big change. So when they were talking about this system, selling it to people, they said it was a hybrid emulation, which means these games would actually play off of these modules by the hardware. And FPGA technology is what they were going to use. I don't know anything about it, but they touted that it would run off the hardware. They
basically created that term to sell this idea.
No, that's not a created term. This is actual game speak of an actual chip that's used to be programmed to run a system 100% with 100% fluidity if you have the right person programming it.
Okay.
But anyways, they're not able to do that. Okay. So they're saying that this is running emulators. They're either licensed or they built them from the ground up. Now the problem is that's fine with the CD-based systems. It goes in, you run the emulation because that's the core of the console. But now you're selling these $60 modules that play either one or multiple systems, and really all it's doing is dumping the ROM onto the actual interface, which the interface is nice. That's one of the selling points of this thing, is that they have a custom interface. You could rate the games. It gives a little description of the game, and you just, you know, you plug the cartridge in or the CD, and then you could dump it on there for play later without the game in there, which that's cool. But why do you need to pay $60 for a module and a controller if really in actuality is all you're doing is dumping the game onto the system?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're reading the chat again. Yeah, NBA Jam and NFL Blitz would be awesome. Yet Tecmo on the Switch. Mike's saying FPGA removal, it's more of a mess than the retro VGS. Yeah, I wouldn't go that far, but I see what you're saying. It's a shame. The store sounded interesting too. New Nintendo tweet. Okay, Rogue Gamer. And then so they're saying it's no lag. So me personally, it playing just, if I'm just looking at the CD part of it, if it played them lag free and there was no noticeable difference of the games playing on the actual hardware, I don't personally care too much about that. But I don't, if it's just doing emulation and there's no part of the hardware that's needs to actually happen, then I don't understand the module thing. So, but here's another thing that I thought about that I don't see a lot of people talking about. If that is the case, if we know that there's an SD card slot in this and you're just dumping ROMs, then really maybe all you would need is the $249.99 base console to dump the ROMs on. You know, someone will be able to hack it and do stuff like that.
Yes, that is absolutely going to happen to this thing, and there is no way that they don't expect somebody to jailbreak this. Because you do not put an SD card slot in the system without expecting somebody to jailbreak the system. It will probably happen extremely early in its life cycle. They're clearly just trying to make this look as legitimate as possible with the dumping of the games and whatnot. So it doesn't look like that this is just a piracy device.
Yeah. And the system looks really great. The controllers are all very sleek. The only one that I don't like, and you don't like either, is the Nintendo one because it's not the buttons aren't straight like they would.
Yeah, we have the dog bone setup instead. But I think that's the only perk for the modules now, is that you can plug in the actual controllers into them instead of using their controller.
Which you will have to use. It looks, well, they do have USB ports in the front, but it looks like you wouldn't be able to use like a Sega Saturn controller with that. But there's USB adapters for that, right?
You would have to create a driver for the specific console to actually do that. So I don't know if that's something that would happen quickly.
Yeah, and Mike Garcia is saying it has a micro SD card slot, but there's a digital store for ROM. So that's another thing that they're talking about. Like that's okay. There is a selling point to the modules that he just reminded me of. They're saying 5 games will be on the module for each one. So like 5 NES games, 5 Genesis games.
I just can't imagine them being
so
games that you're really going to care
about.
No,
you don't know. You really don't know. But that is there's 5 games that come with it. So there's at least that. That is another selling point. So you got the actual controller points or ports, and then 5 games. So there is something there. It's just it's just a harder sell for those than originally expected because of the change in the technology. So we're moving along here. And, for me, the systems that the CD, like that it supports natively with the CD drive, the only one I'm really interested in is Sega CD, because I don't have a Sega CD, and if you try to buy one on eBay, it's like at least $115, and it's old hardware.
Right.
So, that's a value right there. That you have something more modern that could play in HD. If you're really into Sega CD and Sega Saturn and all those CD based games, then yeah, it's probably still worth it if you get past
if you add up
some of these initial changes and blunders.
If you add up all the things that you were getting with the base unit and the cost of actually buying that hardware, you're definitely going to get your money's worth.
Well, let's look at the rewards here. So this is what I was talking about. They have 26 days, they're saying, to get 500,000 to make the initial goal to release this thing. So
I don't see them missing this target.
So Matt thinks they're going to get there. There's got 26 days to go. There's still a lot of videos that they could release to convince people otherwise. I mean, obviously them releasing a Sega Saturn footage today is going to convince maybe a few more people. But like Mike said in the chat, he thinks that it's not legitimate. I have to review it more. I can't say yes or no. That's it. But you know, if they just have one of the guys who helped build the console, which, you know, the team that built this looked like they were guys that were in the industry and have worked on actual games on PlayStation 3 and stuff like that, then just put yourself on camera and just show the prototype working with the different games. Even if the Saturn one's not working, you know, they have showed off other ones. They have been at events. They were at E3. They've showed this off. So that's the difference between this and something like Mike was saying in the chat, the Retro VGS Coleco Chameleon thing, is that they have showed this working with their interface and playing games. We saw that over a year ago with that when they were still calling it the Retro Blocks. But obviously, you know, they learned the hard way that they're going to have to make some changes and go back to just saying, yeah, this is software emulation versus we can do some of this on the hardware. And I don't really want to talk too much about the stuff that they want unlocked. You know, some of them are questionable, like the Famicom one. They're saying this one will be FPGA.
This is the one that I think should
be
already
with the NES one.
It should be a dual slot thing. It doesn't make sense that they'd have this be a separate module.
I know. I just, for the NES one, it's one system, and that system, more than any other, has the most clone consoles already.
Right.
And besides for the Generation Next back in the day,
the Retro AVS has a Famicom slot, and that is the only one that you can currently buy.
But that one's $170.
That one is $170.
So
but it is also it's a competing console with this.
Yeah, Cloudy Mind Gaming said it looks amazing. You talking about the Polymega? It definitely looks good and looks sharp.
I think the negativity that we're giving based off of what we're saying is from the expectations that they had set before this.
Yeah,
and that what they're not hitting what we thought it was going to be.
There was another project called the CD that went on Indiegogo, and it was just a CD-based thing, and it only used, like, you know, limited computer components like Orange Pi or something. But they actually had one of the bigger YouTubers, Metal Jesus, show it off, playing Sega CD games, PlayStation 1 games, and then it was even like doing some DOS games with, you know, some mixed success. But that thing was only going to be like $120.
Yeah, that's a good price point.
And it got killed because people didn't have confidence in it. And I think what's missed a lot is people just want an easy way to play these games. Not everyone wants to spend time on the computer configuring everything and setting it up. So like that was something that was they actually got it working. And I think something like this looming in the background convinced people not to be interested in that as a whole. And I thought they took some unfair criticism because they really weren't trying to hide anything. They were saying what the parts were. These are off the shelf, and, you know, we put a little bit of design into it and basic controller, and here you go. So that would have been huge for the Sega CD and stuff like that, because they're so expensive in the wild. And Mike's saying, I doubt the hardware could even emulate Dreamcast. The CPU, GPU is underpowered. Yeah, that might be so. I don't know enough about the specs to really comment too much on that. But that's something that they're thinking about. N64, Dreamcast in the future.
They would be great to see, but
now, all that being said, there's only, looking at the FAQ, there's only really one feature that kills this for me personally, and I know this isn't for everybody, but I'm going to find that. So can I still Twitch YouTube stream directly from the system? So this is one of the things that I was most excited about, because we stream games a lot. We like playing retro sports games head-to-head. You know, as part of the Retro Sports League, you know, sometimes we don't feel like hooking it up, changing the overlay, doing all that. It would be nice to just, hit a few buttons, turn the TV on, and then you're live.
Right.
And they even answered questions that, yes, this would be it. You could do this. You could use supported webcams. But now this is their statement on this. While Polymega has vastly increased its single-core performance clock speed, we've reduced the number of cores available for non-emulation system processes, such as encoding video for streaming. That means the previously planned streaming features will now move back into experimental column until we can determine that it is fully compatible when the machine is running computationally demanding emulators such as Sega Saturn, Dreamcast, and N64 in the future. With Polymega's current set of supported systems, we believe this feature can be optimized enough to deliver it as a post-launch update, but depending on the systems unlocked during the pre-order rewards, the testing requirements may change. We will keep you posted after the completion of the pre-order campaign. So, that being said, I get what they're saying. They added Sega Saturn. They want to add possibly Dreamcast and N64 in the future. So why take away something that you believe this system could have done for the other systems on your console?
It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, especially with the way that just the current ecosystem is with gaming and people streaming, and how easy it is to do from the PS4. Like, if you could stream all the games before that and it was working, you just don't get rid of that feature. You just turn it off for those ones. So that makes me think they never got it working.
Yeah, and maybe that's so. But this was the feature I was looking forward to most in this, and it's not going to be there. So even if they were doing emulation and they could do it lag-free, if I could still put those on this thing and stream to YouTube or Twitch, that would have been a huge selling point for me. And I think a lot of people, because as this goes on, you see more and more people popping up streaming video games on the internet. So for them to now, a year and a half later, take this away, that's kind of a blow. But that's just me. Other people, they might just like it for Sega Saturn, Sega CD, Neo Geo CD, and they don't necessarily care about this. But I was one of the people who said, this is one of the features that really does make this a modern console. The fact that you can just go to your games that you dumped on this thing and then stream it on the internet. Even though one of the things we were talking about when we had our dreams of the Polymega is that you could just play people online in some of these games.
Yeah.
They've taken away features instead of adding stuff like that. So it went backwards in some aspects. I don't understand if Sega Saturn doesn't work with that, then just, gray out the streaming online for Sega Saturn games.
What this response seems like to me is a response saying, like, we're going to give you these other features because this one doesn't work with those, but these other things are going to show up. It's still possible it's going to happen, but these other things, these are good. Look at the positive, not the negative.
Yeah,
it's very PR-y.
Yeah, so I don't know what I was thinking about that. Like, what is a better way to tell people that we can't do some of these things? Like, do you tell them leading up to your pre-order, or do you just lay it all out there with the pre-order? That's the way they chose to do it. But I would have liked to see some updates on this, because obviously they knew for some time this is what was going to happen.
Yeah, it's kind of dirty just throwing it in your FAQ. Like,
yeah, and that's what people were mad about, because they were having trouble like getting the pre-orders in, is that the website wasn't working properly, so people weren't even able to see the FAQ, so they just pre-ordered based off of what they said it was before. They didn't expect features to be changed and taken away. So one of the things that they did is went to Nintendo Life and released an article because they were having trouble. I didn't read it, but it was basically telling everybody about these changes because their website wasn't working well enough for people to know. So it was kind of a mess in the beginning, which, that's going to hurt. And you have a lot of people talking about this system right now. I think, one of the things they could do, like we said, is they can do a video on their own saying, this is the prototype, put the CDs in there, just show it working. Or they can give it to one of these bigger YouTubers to show it off. That's what the CD did, and they didn't even meet their goal. But I think that would definitely help in their case, because there's a lot of people still with a lot of confidence in this. And for me, it's not what I thought it was going to be. So I'm gonna say, for me, I'm gonna sit and wait with the releases today on the Nintendo Switch of things that I've been waiting for them to finally say they're going to do for so long with their online stuff. I don't know why it's taken them a year and a half for this online service, but it's finally here. So the timing on this for someone like me is like, well, this is going to be pretty much the cost of a Nintendo Switch, including shipping, or if I get any modules. Well, I could go walk to Target tomorrow and pick up the Nintendo Switch, and I'm going to be happy with what's already there. And so now, this is not as appealing as it once was, but like I said, it was that feature for the streaming that I really wanted with this. And I understand people want this for all different reasons, because they're saying that this is an all-encompassing retro system and could just, add more CDs-based games and modules as it goes. And Mike says, I feel sorry for backers. It's very much hopes and dreams. And yes, we had a lot of hopes and dreams for this. And, just based off what they said originally, that was good enough for me. But the changes have made me think twice about it. So, personally, my money will be spent elsewhere, and I don't think you were ever thinking about buying this.
So this is a thing. I never thought I was going to be a day one adopter. I wanted to see this come out, and I would decide later. And I still think that's a possibility for me, but I need to see it exist before I'm going to actually put money into it.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that they went through so many of these issues with the website, and some of the PR issues on Twitter, because people are calling them out on certain things. It's just a lot to do, and when you're a small team just trying to launch something, you don't have this huge PR firm to deal with all these issues.
And also, the internet has a really hard mob mentality, and they tend to dog on the negatives over the positives for things. And it's unfortunate that the negative parts are being pointed out.
Infamous Smoke Gaming says, if you get a Switch RSG, I got one also. I will be picking up a Switch before the September 18th release of the online.
Already? So, wow.
Yeah, I'm getting it, because I actually told my wife, I'm like, I'm going to pre-order this Polymega. I've been waiting for it for so long. And then all of this occurred. And then, some big news broke about the Switch today. So the money will be spent elsewhere. And that's just, you're going up against mega corporations like Nintendo when you're selling this type of stuff. And if the price point isn't right and it's not what people want, then they're not going to spend their money on it. But that being said, there's still a lot of positives about the Polymega. It looks great. It's offering a lot that other retro reproduction consoles aren't offering, especially the CD-based games. So if you're into that, it's still worth getting. If anyone's diving into this, just the $249 for the CD base unit would probably be the way to go, I think.
Because if you don't have any of those systems, it's great.
Yeah, if you don't have any of those systems, you know, I could see if you don't have two of them that you really want. The PlayStation 1, though, it's kind of like needed, but you could play that. You could get a PlayStation for super cheap.
Peanuts.
And PlayStation 2 plays it. The first version of the PlayStation 3 plays it. So that's really not a huge selling point. But stuff like the Sega CD is. The Saturn, I haven't looked at the price of those things for a while, but I didn't think they were as much as the Sega CD. But it's more about the issues with that console and some of the battery saves, I believe. So, you know, Neo Geo CD, like that's something I don't have. But looking at the games, it's like, do I really want to play any of these or try them? Yeah, maybe, but I would just be spending money because I had the option to do it, not because I really wanted to play some of those games. So we'll see how this goes. They still could easily hit this reward. If all they need is 500,000, you know, based off of these numbers, they're going to get a few thousand of them out there as pre-orders.
The other thing that I think is kind of interesting about this is the fact that there's a time limit on a pre-order to hit a number. And I think that's only created into the idea of like, I need to pre-order this, otherwise it's not going to happen. Because I think you could just leave this pre-order open forever and you'd still be able to hit the numbers. So I think it's about creating pressure.
Yeah, and maybe, but you know, they have some cleanup to do. They have some more proving themselves at this point. There's obviously a lot of people questioning it and not so happy about the change just to software emulation. But you know, there's still something to be had with this console. It's just not for me currently. But obviously, all these things that they're talking about in the reward tiers, if it happened, this thing would be the ultimate retro gaming console that we thought it could be when we originally talked about it. And Mike Garcia says they should lose lead on hardware and cope via the digital store like other console manufacturers.
I don't know if they can really afford that though.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. You know, you think they could get to reward tier?
I think they'll definitely hit the first tier.
Yeah, they're pretty close. They're under 100,000. I've seen some of the reports from other sources in the news and on YouTube, and there's a lot of negativity. I'm not going to sit here and be super negative about it. You know, I think we talked about it fairly based off what we thought it was last year. And it's just got some things that we like about it and don't. But overall, you know, you need to decide if this is something you really want and need, or you just want to support them because you believe in these guys and you think that they can make this what they're saying it could be. So it's more about supporting this company. And
I mean, it's about being an early adopter into a product, just like the people that buy any console on the launch of a title. I mean, you're just supporting the idea that it might be better. I mean, that's how the Switch was. I mean, the Switch has a great concept, but when it first launched, there were a lot of gray areas, but, you know, people love Nintendo,
So in the chat, do you guys have any questions for us or any more comments about the Polymega or some of the games included on the Nintendo Switch for retro online multiplayer?
So my question for you is, do they have a release date or a target release date?
They do, which is a bad date to pick, I believe, which is April 1st, April Fool's Day.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding.
That is pick April 2nd. Just don't pick April 1st.
April 1st, yeah, not the best date to pick, but that is when they're saying they would release the pre-orders. You would get the console on April 1st. So I don't know.
So if we don't get any other questions, my question for you is with people that have not already adopted the Switch that might help you. Is there any other or help them maybe decide? Is there any games that you are looking forward to outside of the 20 games that you're going to be getting for the NES?
You mean that already?
Like, what are the other things you were interested in for the
Nintendo Switch's online service?
I'm just saying, just Switch games in general.
There's only a few, and that's what has prevented me from buying the thing. And that is one of the ones I want is the hard copy now of the Sonic Mania, because I heard that's like the best Sonic game out there. So,
I would say it's the best Sonic game.
And it's only $30. Like that's one that would probably be the first game that I buy, to be honest with you. It's cheap and it's something that I would play right off the bat and enjoy. Thinking about the other games, I know there was a few more.
I remember you mentioned wanting the physical copy of Mutant League Football.
That's yes. Okay. There's two more. Yeah, the Mutant Football League. I do like that game. I haven't played it as much as I want on the PlayStation 4. It's a game that I have fun playing when I do get a chance, and I can stream it straight from the console, which I like, which I wouldn't be able to do on the Switch. But if I'm going to buy a physical copy, I'd rather just get it on there and play it natively. And I think you could probably play online on the Switch. You just can't stream it. So that game, because that one's not a full retail price game either. I think it's like 30 or 40.
Most physical versions of Switch games are $40, and when they're not full retail games.
And the other one is another game that I already have, is Rocket League.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a physical copy of Rocket League. I still like the physical copies if they're available. Rocket League's a game that I would play.
That's one of the things that sells me so much about the Switch is I want physical copies. Like, I have a bunch of indie games in this bag right here that are physical copies, and I already own them on other systems.
And Infamous Smoke Gaming saying in the chat, LJC, you're right about that. I got my Switch day one because I love Nintendo and Zelda. Buy Zelda, Mario Odyssey, and Mario Kart for Switch. Best games. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't play Zelda at this point. I have nothing against it. I just don't dive into those adventure games. Mario Odyssey is a little bit more something that I would probably play, but I've played many 3D platformer Mario games. I bought Nintendo or Mario Galaxy on the Wii. Never really played that too much. So that's something that I don't need to get right off the bat for me personally. But yeah, that's obviously a game that most people are going to want to pick up.
Yeah.
So those are really the three games, and the funny thing about it is I already have two of them.
Yeah.
But that's what I like to support. I like to play sports games. Some of the sports games on there, I don't think I would get NBA 2K19.
NBA Playgrounds, the new one.
No, NBA Playgrounds lost me at the first one. I'm never paying attention to that again. That game is brutal. They just made arcade gameplay not fun at all.
So there's also a lot of Neo Geo games that are on the Switch. Sports Neo Geo games.
That's cool because I haven't played most of those.
And then Windjammers is coming. It's not out yet, and they're also making a Windjammers 2.
Yeah.
Windjammers is awesome.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of games to explore that I don't even know about, but just off the top of my head, those are the ones I would dive into first.
Yeah.
But that's what I said. A lot of these things are sold off of features now. Like the feature is you could play these games online multiplayer now with people, and for adults that used to play these games, it's a lot harder to get in person for most people. I mean, I know we play Monday nights at Demon Tap, so that's the unique thing that we got going on, but most people don't have the time to actually make those weekly events occur.
Yeah.
So, it's something I'm excited about, the Nintendo Switch, and I wish the Polymega team the best of luck. I know they've dealt with a lot of issues that they didn't expect to. I still believe that there's something there with that. It's just it's more of a uphill climb because of some of the changes that they made with releasing the pre-order, when they pretty much had a lot of questions answered the whole time their website was up before, and some of that stuff didn't come to fruition. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with it. But we'll keep an eye on it, and if there's a reason to make an update, we will. But it's been a while, but we really wanted to just get this out there, have a discussion about the Polymega, and just tell people that this is possible now on the Nintendo Switch for the retro multiplayer online experience with the NES right now, and hopefully they add even more Super Nintendo, N64. Sky's the limit now.
Not put it out of possibility.
Yeah. So this is pretty awesome. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening to us. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, we'd love to have you come back. And take care. Have a good one.